Did I? No.
There you go.
Hello and welcome back to the Facts of Facts, the only Facts of Life podcast that's here to tell you all about Edna Dix.
Oh, yes. I want to hear all about Edna's dicks.
Edna Dix.
Oh, sorry. I misheard.
Yes, one of our guest actresses today is Edna Dix. And we'll get into her later. I just love her name, honestly. I just wanted to say Edna Dix up top at the beginning of the podcast because, I mean, that's the name you want if you're going to be guest starring on The Facts of Life, I think.
That's like a Thomas Pynchon name. You know, it's like a perfect. It encapsulates so much about this woman's personality.
Yes. All right. Well, we are here to discuss Season 4, Episode 15, Teacher's Pet, directed by Azad Khalata, written by Stuart Wolpert and Deirdre Fay. Not my favorite writers, although they do write my favorite episode of this season, which has not come yet.
Oh, it's not this one?
It's not this one.
Can I pause you for 1 second?
Please, at all times.
Before we get into it. So I know that we record these, in advance, but I did want to acknowledge the fact that today is a very important holiday. Today is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day, Dominik.
Thank you, Britt. Happy Valentine's Day to you. I don't know why we're saying this on the podcast where people are never going to listen to it on Valentine's Day.
That's fine. But the reason is because I wrote you a special Valentine's Day poem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it goes, roses are red, violets are blue. Wow, do I have a depressing episode of Facts for you.
Yes. I did do this last night after midnight. I started it and I worked on it for like 4 hours, and it was the beginning of my Valentine's Day as a single man. And this was what I was doing, and I was like, "Jeez, what is my life?"
So so keep going. See, Teacher's Pet.
So this is the episode from this season that I would skip at all costs anytime it's on in reruns. It hit me so hard as a child. One of my first times facing death, and it is depressing. I guess it has a message. I'm not going to say it doesn't have a fact behind it, which is basically if you have only a couple of days to live, don't use your last day before you go to the hospital to make a date with a teenager to go see Beethoven. Do something more fun.
Well, let me ask you a question. Just generally, would you regard The Facts of Life as a medical drama?
I mean, clearly no, because we don't know a single thing about this woman's illness, just that she's dying. She's going to the hospital and dying.
Right. So why did Stuart Wolpert and Deirdre Fay think that they could play in the sandbox of a medical drama where you introduce a brand new character in the exact same episode that you kill her off? Listen, if you want to have maximum drama, give her an arc. Let Jo get super attached to her favorite English teacher, and then have her death be really devastating. You can't cram it into 22 minutes and then not really discuss it. Anything about it. I don't know what she has. I don't know why it's progressing so rapidly. And the other thing is that they never talk about it. They just have these silent looks at one another. Because when you're really close friends with someone, sometimes you can't express how you truly feel? Is that the message? That's how close.
You, the message is use your last days on Earth wisely. If you know you're going to the hospital in 2 weeks, quit your job early. Don't be like, all right, I'm going to go take the train to the hospital now after 2 weeks of teaching.
Sushi dates with my favorite English student.
Oh, so weird. Speaking of which, before we even get started, I do have a user review of this episode on IMDb.
Great.
It's 7 out of 10 stars.
Wow, that's higher than I would have thought.
And the title is "This Episode Wouldn't Be Allowed Today."
That could literally apply to every other episode of The Facts of Life.
That is
Literally
correct.
every single other one. Every other one. There isn't a single one that we've covered that would have been allowed today.
Okay,
The
I
duty.
want to acknowledge that this episode was reviewed by Sheldon Linda. I'm imagining that's a couple, but it could be one of those two name people. And it was reviewed July 14th of 2020. So mid-pandemic, this episode was reviewed quite freshly. So here's a hot off the presses review.
I love the fact that whoever this person was, not only
Sheldon Linda.
Sheldon Linda, not only watched this horrible, depressing episode of The Facts of Life, but then was like, I'm going to fire up the old IMDb review under my own name in the midst of the pandemic. An episode all about death.
And it's broken up into 8 paragraph chunks.
Okay.
But they're not that long. Like one of the paragraph chunks is just so sad. Anyway, so here. I assumed the worst when this episode started. Paragraph chunk. The world has gotten so crazy and people have gotten so used to assume the worst, both in the telling of a story and the possible outcome of a situation, that this kind of situation could never have worked in a current show. I mean, the language is not perfect, but I understand what they're saying.
Yes.
A teacher is no longer able to be outside friends with a student because everybody assumes the worst and is afraid of the worst happening. Paragraph break. A teacher locally here in Utah helped a younger student. I'm going to remove the word got so this makes more sense. A teacher locally here in Utah helped a younger student find her way home and got disciplined for it. A high school principal drives 3 intoxicated students home after an activity rather than causing more problems for them by calling the authorities, and he was disciplined for it. Paragraph break.
Disciplined. Okay. A lot of discipline.
The world has gotten so crazy that someone, such as the character of Gail, could not have been written as simply a teacher spending some extra time with a student who she can relate to because of similar life changes, because everyone thinking the worst about her and thinking that she is going to do the worst. Again, the language is a little off, but they're clearly worked up. Also, every time this person says the word because, they just write BEC period, which is very weird because no other words are abbreviated. Anyway, paragraph break. A friend of mine who is a junior high and high school band instructor who is very close to her students has very carefully even avoided any of her students as Facebook friends. Paragraph break. Singles have the same issues. People assume the worst of us and are fearful of us.
Fearful of them.
And then final paragraph. So sad.
Wow. That is not what I expected of this review.
That took me on a journey.
That was not how I read this episode.
I will say that I did read this episode a little bit that way. There was, to me, if there was an episode that had maximum lesbian subtext, this was the one.
No shit.
Um,
No shit.
so at least thusly. And and so I do think it was a little weird how Joe is spending all this time with the teacher, especially when this teacher had very little time left to live, and this is what she's chosen to do with all of her time. But like, take that out of the equation, and it's still weird. And like, we're kind of normalized to it at this point because Joe is spending all that time with Marie Thornwell, that 80-year-old lady. So it's like, okay, I guess Joe just really likes to spend time with older women, um, on its face as like a thing. Anyway, so I did. There was part of me that was definitely like, there's a lot of time that they're spending together, which was weird. And I mean, even Natalie was like, Gail, You call her Gail?
Yes, yes.
Anyway, um, this is a shitty episode, and I'm sorry we have to discuss it. And uh, from the amount of notes that I wrote, this might be a long one. Um, but we will see. Let's get through it. Let's get started. Britt, what did you think of this episode?
I thought this was very bad. Um, because so as I said, it's not a medical drama. You can't just introduce a random new character and then kill her off in the same exact episode. Here's the
Apparently,
thing.
again.
Yeah, you can, but it's bad. It's stupid. It's just the wrong way to tell the story. The story would have been way stronger had it been Gail and Joe developing this extremely tight relationship, and then Gail having to break Joe's heart by saying, "Actually, I realize something. We shouldn't be spending this much time together outside of class." And then Joe's like, I'm so upset about this, but maybe you're right. I should go hang out with my friends. That's a good lesson. Not basically, I'm not going to acknowledge the fact that you're dying. I'm pissed off about it. I don't want to see you anymore. And I can't believe you didn't tell me. So fuck you. And I'm not going to tell you I love you.
Yes. This was a weird one. It
Oh,
was.
here's the other crazy thing is that the other crazy thing is that somehow, by hook or by crook, this episode managed to squeeze in a B plot.
Yes,
I know.
I
And
know.
and
I
it
was
was a B plot,
shocked.
but the only reason they managed to squeeze it in was because it was tangentially related to the fact that Joe's best friend teacher is dying. So that you could juxtapose the fact that Blair is upset by the fact that she's having her birthday and is getting older, and that she should really appreciate the fact that she gets all this time on Earth, and not be pissed off about the fact that she went around, another birthday for these Warner gals, which apparently once you hit 18, you turn into a giant pile of shit, according
Well,
to.
it's apparently the truth because if you think about it, we saw Monica Warner in season 1, and then we saw her in season 2, and she was like 20 years older.
It's true. And
So
also, and
there's a
also,
there's a moment in the Warner girl's life when things just flat out change.
yeah,
Although I will say that moment has not come for Lisa Welchel, who looks stunning on Instagram lately.
yes. As well, the other thing is going back to Mrs. Warner, Blair's mom, is that in between season 1 and season 2, not only did she age 20 years, but she also developed breast cancer. So, that was rough.
Yes, that was.
So,
Well, that's what happens when you drastically change every aspect of your appearance. Something in the
something
genetics could possibly cause.
catastrophic happens to you.
Um, all right. Well,
So yeah. So
let's
again,
get into this.
so
So we
where
open,
do we open? We open in the fucking cafeteria.
and before
And
my brain can even register that it's a Cousin Jerry episode, Natalie is already obnoxious.
yeah, Natalie is so obnoxious in this episode.
Yeah.
And not only is she obnoxious, she's also like peak dad jokes. Like, and she kind of like finger guns it. Like she acknowledges it. She's like, yeah, I know, I'm being very punny this week.
That was our lowest point of the episode. Like even the characters were like, just kill me. Just get me.
Yeah, they were like that. That's actually what made um, Gail sick. Was was Natalie's terrible jokes.
Oh, yeah. So Natalie is lecturing Jerry on the benefits of picking up the decorations before the store closes.
Makes sense. That yeah.
And you
And
can see in Jerry's eyes, she really wants to be like, "No shit, you fat fuck." Like you can
yes,
just see she's
exactly.
like,
Cousin Jerry's like, she's like, I have cerebral palsy. I'm not mentally deficient like you apparently are,
"Yeah,
Natalie. She's
thank
like,
you
yeah,
for
yeah,
telling
yeah,
me
I
to
know. I'm
go to
gonna
the
get the
store when it's open."
yeah.
But instead, she says she thinks that they're going to a lot of effort for nothing, and we're doing that thing that Faye and Wolpert love to do, which is start an episode with a conversation where we're like, "What the fuck are they talking about?" So
Yes.
that we can be like, "Ooh, I'm just so invested in this episode instantly." But
Yeah.
really, it's just
Yeah.
maddening when they do it, and they do it all the time. Look it up. Like that's their thing. That's how
That's true.
they. that's how they have to open an episode. Is like, let's have a conversation where it's obvious that we're talking about something that you don't know yet. So you're gonna be
Mm,
like, tell me more.
yeah. No.
Anyway,
I wanted to learn less.
yes, we learned that it's Blair's birthday.
Yeah. And, and the thing is that like cousin Jerry's basically like, she's like, she doesn't really like birthdays or whatever. And and Mrs. Garrett very unhelpfully says, "No one can resist a surprise party." Which, no shit, Mrs. Garrett, you can't resist a surprise party because it's a surprise. You literally are surprised by it. You can't resist it. You go right into it.
Yeah, it's not that you love it; it's just
No.
that you're now trapped in it.
Yes.
There's no
Exactly.
way to physically resist.
No. Exactly. And
Um,
then Mrs. Garrett's like, "Well, I'm sure Blair won't care." And Blair says, and then Blair enters and she goes, "What would I care about?" And Mrs. Garrett kind of like blathers. She's like, Porky Pigs her way into a whole sentence. And then Natalie says that it's Wednesday.
yeah, and Blair does not care that it's Wednesday. She also
I
does not care that they're so obviously covering up something that makes no sense. She's like, that's fine.
Yeah, but also the thing is that it's like that's the as I've said multiple times on this on this podcast, is that's the sort of like Weekend at Bernie's level laziness of like writing, where it's like she won't care that it's Wednesday. What? Just say taco night, pizza
Anything.
day,
Anything
anything
that
else
makes
but
sense.
Wednesday. She won't care that there's a pop quiz tomorrow, but Wednesday.
Yes. Also,
Come
I feel
on.
like it's been 30 seconds of this episode, and Faye and Wolpert have put in like 12 different sitcom tropes. From the, well, I'm sure Blair won't mind while Blair's right behind her, to the, well, won't care if it's Wednesday, to the whole fake conversation where you don't know what they're talking about. There's
Yeah.
so much of it.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. Anyway, Blair was supposed to be going for a walk, but she's apparently too depressed. So she's decided to come back and sigh loudly in front of her classmates and friends.
I know. And this is the other great thing is that I was like, again, another stupid sitcom trope, especially from the 80s, which is to make women feel upset and guilty about getting older.
When they're 16.
When they're a teenager. There is nothing little kids and teenagers want more than anything than to get older.
Yes.
You know,
And I'm not saying they want to be 50, but they want to be 18. Like,
they want to be able to go and watch pornography in the movie theater,
okay,
and they want to be able to be drafted. All the important things that teenagers want as soon as they turn 18.
Those are the numbers 1 and 2 things that Blair is concerned about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's sad because she's taking another step on the Geritol trail.
Again, another reference for something that little girls don't know anything about. Geritol, as we've covered many times, because apparently that's the only old person joke that the people on this show know how to make. Geritol is an iron supplement that is, quote, for tired blood.
Yes, we have been there. Just something that I wanted to say, you made me think of something. Like when you pointed out that if they had given Gail a couple of episodes prior to this would actually have some kind of impact. And it's like, yeah, I was like, yeah, that's a good idea, but like this show doesn't do that. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is fucking Brenda's 3rd episode.
You've got Brenda continuity.
Yeah, why are we getting 3 Brenda episodes? Kill Brenda.
Yeah, please just kill Brenda. Honestly, Natalie looked as though she wanted to kill Brenda.
Yeah.
I also, the other thing is that, they do have Brenda continuity. She remains a cunt. Wow. Like, the one thing she had to do was make a banner that said, "Happy birthday, Blair." Managed to fuck that up.
Yeah, and also she didn't use her Brenda voice this episode, which I found disappointing. So she fucked that up too, in my opinion. I think that's why she's not back anymore. I think Brenda was like, I want to be like one of the regular girls and not do the weird robot voice. So I'm gonna be like a little bit more human this time. And they were like, fuck Brenda. It's
No,
not
get
working
out of here.
anymore.
Get out of here,
The
Brenda.
magic is gone, Brenda.
So one last thing before we move on from the Geritol trail.
Yes.
So we have discussed it in the past, and I think one of the reasons why it was kind of like in the zeitgeist in the 80s was that there was a very famous commercial where a husband puts his wife gets his wife onto Geritol because she's so tired from doing all of the housework and all the cleaning and everything. And finally, because now that she doesn't have tired blood, she's like back to normal and whatever. And the catch line was, my wife, I think I'll keep her. Anyway, but the other, and again, a thing that, very, very cool reference for a show for little girls in 1982. But the other great thing is that I looked it up and I was like, I wonder if there's like um, a more recent reference to Geritol. And and absolutely there was in a 2020 episode of The Real Housewives of Potomac. Giselle insults Karen Huger by accusing her of using Geritol.
I think that only ages Giselle for even knowing what Geritol is and being able to recall it.
True.
But anyway, so Mrs. Garrett says that most girls cannot wait to get older. And Blair says she is not most girls. Mrs. Garrett heaves a knowing chortle because she knows most gorgeous blonde child billionaires don't consent to years of slave labor. So yes, Blair is not like most girls.
Yeah, what does Mrs. Garrett do? She goes, it was alarming.
Yeah, it was Count Chocula-esque.
Yeah.
Um, Blair monologues about how fragile the Warner woman's beauty is, as we've discussed, and then yeah, uh, rebounding from the old woman who bought her earlier this season, Joe
Has
comes.
moved on to a younger but more sick version.
Yes, like a book closer to death. Is it possible that Joe is just like looking for that payday? Like she's like, I just want. So Marie Thornwell was going to leave me all her money and she was going to die, but that's not happening anytime soon. This woman's about to die in like 2 weeks. I just got her medical records. I'm going to befriend her and get her to give me all her money. Make Marie see what she's missing.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, yeah. So this is Mrs. Gallagher.
Yeah.
Or Glare. Oh, good Glare. Gail.
Miss Gallagher. She's
Miss
not married.
Gallagher. My apologies. That's Miss Gallagher or Gail if you eat her butt.
Mhm.
And they did what they just coming back from doing what most lesbians do on a Wednesday.
Book fair.
Yes. They bought too many books. And now
So they bring in all these books, like big stacks of books, but they are so excited. Like Joe is like creaming her jeans on the way in. She is so excited about these goddamn books. She's like, oh my God. And Mrs. Garrett also, apparently, this excitement is contagious. She's like, oh, what? And then she's like, Great Gatsby? Lord Jim? The Grapes of Wrath? It was like she was going to rip off her skin and like jump out the window. She was so excited about these books.
yeah, she really was. Shall we talk about Gail?
Yes.
What'd you think of her?
Yeah, she was fine. It was in a movie that I've actually recently watched.
Oh, what was that?
I can't remember the name of it. It's about used car salesman with Kurt
I
Russell.
think it was called Used Cars.
Yeah, okay.
So Gail is played by Deborah Harmon, who I know best as Elizabeth Lubbock.
From 10 is too many. Is that what it's called? 12 is too many. 12, cheaper by the 12.
She's
13
mom
is
from Just the 10 of Us.
Cheaper by the dozen. What?
Just the 10 of Us. But she's done so much more. Like that time that she guest starred on Growing Pains as Elizabeth Lubbock from Just the 10 of Us. She got her start playing a party guest in the 1976 sexploitation comedy Chesty Anderson, U.S. Navy.
Yeah. So my husband looked her up because he was like, I recognize this woman. And I was like, how? You haven't even watched the episode with me. And he's like,
Just the 10 of us, obviously.
he's like, I think it's her voice. And then he looked her up. And he was like, yeah. She was in Used Cars, but her first big hit was she was in Chesty Anderson and the Yorktown Boys. What's it called again?
Chesty Anderson, U.S. Navy.
Yeah, there you go.
But she was just a party guest. I think it was just like she got an extra
So she didn't
role.
show her Chesty Anderson.
I
In it.
don't believe so. But then she did a Laverne and Shirley, a few other sitcoms of the time. She was in the real Space Force, the 1978 Fred Willard TV movie Space Force.
Oh yeah.
She was also in a TV movie called The Ghost of Flight 401, which is on YouTube. If I wasn't doing these notes, I would have watched it last night because it looks like fun.
Okay.
She was a regular on the Ted Knight Show, which
Mhm.
lasted 6 episodes. She appeared in the Paper Chase sitcom Quincy M.E. before appearing in Used Cars in 1980. She was Nurse Webster on 2 episodes of MASH, and she shows up at MASH conventions sometimes. Right around this time, she did Bachelor Party, and then she reprised her role as Barbara Fuchs in the sitcom pilot version of Used Cars.
Ah. Okay.
She had a bit part in Back to the Future, and then she was also a regular in the Harvey Korman sitcom Leo and Liz in Beverly Hills, which asked the question, what if the Beverly Hillbillies were from Jersey?
Oh.
Yeah,
that
it's
sounds
literally
fun.
that. Anyway, she was in a John Lithgow, Mary Beth Hurt TV movie called Baby Girl Scott, which is about a baby girl who was born under a pound and a half, which sounds like a laugh riot.
Ooh.
Then after,
I assume she played the baby in that.
yes, and then after just the 10 of us, she recurred on Dear John. I'm assuming that she was John's ex-wife, because she only showed up on 2-parters and 3-parters. Otherwise, she wasn't on there. So I think she must have been important. But can you imagine? I don't know if you've ever watched Dear John, but can you imagine a 3-part episode of Dear John? That's just torture.
Well, Dominic, the next 2 episodes of fucking Facts of Life are 2-parters.
No, the next one is not. And then after that, there's a 2-parter. And then we have a couple that's...
Of course I can imagine the nightmare of multiple part shows of a TV show that I hate watching.
Oh, Dear John is so much worse than the Facts of Life. So much worse.
I can't actually remember, but I vaguely remember the opening credits of Dear John, because he plays this big song and then it lands on the card that the Dear John letter that she leaves on his mantle, right?
Yes, and as soon as it lands on the card, that's when everybody in the world would change the channel. So everybody knows up to that part. It's like, oh, I'm looking for the remote. I got to find the remote before he finds the card. Once the card comes out, that means I have to watch Dear John. That's my childhood recollection of Dear John.
Oh my God. Turn it off.
Anyway, things started to dry up after Dear John. She did one-time appearances on shows like Sisters, Home Free, The Mommies, which I really enjoyed, Caroline in the City, Boy Meets World. She did do 2 episodes of Married with Children as 2 different characters, a decade apart, which is kind of cool. She also did 2 episodes of Clueless. She was in The Pretender. She was Pussy Willow on an episode of Son of the Beach. And then her final appearance was as parent volunteer in a 2002 episode of Malcolm in the Middle. I saw her picture. Right now, she looks great. She's 69.
Nice.
Anyway, that is all I have on Deborah Harmon.
Yeah, to be perfectly frank, great actress. She was the best part of this. Here's the thing: is that again, very much like most Facts of Life episodes, they pull their punch. She and Joe clearly are good acting partners. They vibe, they clearly are scissoring when they're not listening to Beethoven and eating sushi and eating fish. When they're not eating fish in a restaurant, they're eating fish, if you know what I'm saying.
I think even the writers knew what you were saying at the time.
In any case, it's that once Joe finds out that she's dying, we don't even have a conversation between the two of them about how Joe feels hurt and sad, is going to miss her. It's just like they're basic. Like the writers are like, some things you can't say. Some things you just can't say, and it's like you're writers. Figure the fuck out how to say it and write it down and put it in this show. That's it.
Nah,
That's your job.
too much work.
let's
Anyway, so they're unloading books,
let's have
and
a huge party for Blair.
I'm sorry.
For, let's have a huge party for Blair for no reason.
Why not? She really doesn't want it, so let's throw it. So they're going through the books. There's Lord Jim, as we said, Great Gatsby. Melissa Etheridge's book of poems about Subarus is mixed in there, and then of course the Grapes of Wrath, which Natalie walks over just to shit on the Grapes of Wrath for no reason, until Gail says it's her favorite book, and then Natalie says it's hers too, although she hasn't read it. Then why is she shitting on it in the first place? Natalie is becoming insufferable. Britt, you opened my eyes to this. I don't know if we're just in a bad patch for Natalie, or if you have made me realize that she sucks. But I love Natalie, so this is
Everyone
hard
does.
for me.
Everyone does. That's the thing. Is that? But again, that's the whole thing about this show. Is that it's incredibly beloved. People remember it very fondly. Like, oh yeah, no, that was a really great show. I loved it. I watched it all the time. And then it's like, wait a minute. Do you remember the one where Tootie almost was in child pornography? Oh wait, yeah, yeah. Do you remember the one where they got Mrs. Garrett sent to jail? Oh, hmm. Do you remember the multiple ones where multiple characters were raped? Oh, huh. I guess you're right. It was pretty fucked up. Yeah. So I'm happy to ruin Natalie for you. She sucks. Also, speaking of, but again, the other weird thing is that they get Brenda continuity in this, but they certainly don't get other character continuity in this. As soon as Tootie finds out that Gail is sick, she would tell the entire school.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I felt like Tootie pissed off the writers this week
Yeah.
because something happened where she had 4 lines the whole episode. They were not great, and it was just weird. Like there
Yeah.
was so many things that were like for instance, the Gail. You call your teacher Gail. That's a Tootie thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It just felt like they were like taking things away from Tootie and giving them to Natalie. Anyway, so Gail is so excited for Joe to enjoy the pleasures of the Grapes of Wrath, even though it's just about a bunch of migrant workers and Joe gets enough unemployment back home. When does she go back home?
Yeah, exactly. But also, again, here's the thing. She loves English class. She's so fucking jazzed about this book fair that she's just been to, right? She loves it. She's like the straight A student. She's there on scholarship. She loves reading. She loves biology, books, whatever. And apparently, this one she's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't need any of that. Because apparently in Joe's mind, the telling of the story is not as important as the story itself. She's here for the plot only. She doesn't care about all those fancy words. It's like she's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You seen one poor people, one poor family, you seen them all. And it's like, that's not how this works, Joe. Come on, don't do this.
Don't do this, Joe. Um, yeah, and so this is where Joe calls Mrs. Gallagher, Gail, and Natalie as a coronary, and then Blair jumps in to explain that Mrs. Gallagher and Joe have a very special relationship. Wink. They
Yeah.
share a common bond. Wink. Don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about it any further, or she'll get fired. Okay? Wink.
Yeah.
Joe tries to clarify that the common bond is
Is
not a love of the taste of a woman's inner thigh.
no, it's poverty.
Sure. Wink.
No, we just go straight to poverty. It's just like, oh, okay. And then they have this like stupid like round robin of like playing the four Yorkshiremen. It's like, how poor were you? Oh, we were so poor. You know, um, you wouldn't last 1 second in my neighborhood. And then she's like, well, in my grammar school, everyone had leather jackets and tattoos. And Joe's like, yeah, 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 same here. And she's like, no, those were the nuns. And it's like, you had a house? No, we had a hole. You had
But
a
here's the
hole?
thing. I call bullshit because why doesn't Gail have a tough girl accent like Joe?
It came out during that.
Barely.
Yeah.
Weak sauce accent wise. Not you, Gail. Um, but so Mrs. Garrett says they must be hungry, and my brain automatically went to make a joke about fish tacos. Honestly, like I
It's
was typing it for
I
it
wrote
when they
down
went there. They went
I,
there without me.
yes, they did. I wrote down lol. I wrote down lol. Joe loves eating fish. She loves the smell of it. She likes the texture. She likes the look of it.
They
Everything about it.
gorged each other on each other's bento boxes.
Yes. Yes.
Oh man! So then Tootie finally speaks 10 minutes into the episode, just to go. Joe ate raw fish.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I heard that echo like across the courtyard. I apologize to listeners. But it was everything that Tootie says is so loud this season. She
Yeah.
just shouts her three lines, and then she's like, "Can't you guys have me almost become a child prostitute again, or something like season 3 when you guys were sexualizing me all the time?" I'm so bored.
Yeah. And
Please
she's
God,
like, please. She's like, please. No, 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 no. Please, please. I'll wear the roller skates again. Just
we don't need.
give me something to do. And then the writers are like, no, 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 no. We're not going to give you the fucking roller skates. We're going to have you learn how to drive in a hearse. Okay? Very normal. Hyper normal thing for a little girl to do. Yep. Very normal.
That's ways away. Um.
Anyway,
Anyway,
so then after this whole like oh my god, we gorged ourselves on one another's bento boxes. It was absolutely delicious and amazing. It was so spicy. Um, Mrs. Garrett's like, she's like, oh, I've been trying to sell the girls on sushi for ages. Really, Mrs. Garrett? No way. No goddamn way. Does Mrs. Garrett even eat sushi?
yeah, I first of all do agree. I don't think Mrs. Garrett eats sushi. Also, I don't think she's preparing sushi. I don't think she's getting sushi grade tuna in peak skill. I don't think that she's willing to spend all the money to go to the sushi place and bring it back for
No.
these four slave girls that she has. I don't. She gonna serve sushi to the whole school? What exactly is the thought process here?
Exactly. No, and that's the thing is that
Oh my
it's
god, I want sushi so much right now.
I know, same. Just keep saying it over and over again. But the funny thing is that it's like the implication is that Mrs. Garrett is like, I've been trying to sell the girls on sushi. She's the school, dietitian. She does all the cooking for everyone. So like, I read that as I've been trying to get all the girls at Eastland to want to eat sushi. And I thought that's unbelievably ambitious for Mrs. Garrett, who the last time we saw her like create a menu, all she had down on the board was potato. So it's not like she's going to be like hand tataki roll or whatever,
You're right. Good
shrimp
point.
tempura. Nope, Mrs. Garrett, I'm here with potato. Everyone gets a potato for lunch today.
Um, and then Natalie nearly shuts down this podcast. Like I almost quit.
Yeah, because Mrs. Garrett's like, oh, you had sushi. I've been trying to get everyone to eat sushi. Oh, it's so adventurous. And Natalie goes, I guess you could say we're chickens of the sea. And then
Fuck you, Deirdre Faye. Fuck you, Stuart Wolpert.
everyone on the set, everyone in the scene, everyone in the audience,
The audience left.
like the camera like the camera just like flipped up and like the lights went off, the booms fell, everything went into chaos, and then Natalie goes, I'm a putty guy. And then that's what prevented everyone from murdering Mindy Cohn on site.
Oof.
It was rough.
Because that entire situation caused Gail to need something. She actually went, I could use something now. And did I? I feel like I saw her tap her arm like she needed like a heroin.
It was weird. It was like she was like, I gotta get, I'm jonesing. Like I need a fix.
It was bananas.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was her hand gesture, but it was anyway. Mrs. Garrett suggests coffee, and they go in the room for other gal talk. You just know that Mrs. Garrett was like, "Okay, just tell me. I mean, I'm not really curious, but I'm kind of curious. How good is Joe at eating pussy? Is she like amazing?"
And she's like, she's the best I've ever had.
Oh, because my last 3 fiancés were terrible at it. Anyway, so Nat recaps the last 4 minutes of the episode for us. She can't believe how close Joe is with Mrs. Gallagher. Joe says they're friends. Nat obnoxiously drops the no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Joe, we're friends. And Joe's like, no, no,
No,
no, no, no, no, no. You think we're
no. I wouldn't call what this is friends. Natalie, I tolerate you. I certainly don't want to get into bed with you.
Just like, okay, whatever you have to tell yourself.
Yeah.
Being friends with a teacher goes against nature, according to Natalie. Is being friends with a teacher code for lesbian the way "Boy, You're Strange" was code for lesbian in season one?
I hope so.
Me too. And Joe goes on to Nat about how Mrs. Gallagher might really be the one when Blair notices that there's a book on becoming a teacher in her stack. And Blair, Tootie, and especially Natalie thinks this is absolutely outrageous.
So, as I've said, I've pointed this out many times. So, this show, as soon as anyone evinces any sort of like interest or in like a new hobby or something that they love, like, I don't know, Jermaine Jackson or, I don't know, motorcycles or something, everyone has to lean in and be needlessly cruel and shit on it.
They
So,
really
like,
did this time.
there,
I heard your voice when they were just like, "You want to be a teacher? What a stupid fucking thing to want."
yeah, like, you? Ugh. Oh my God. Ugh. And it's like, it's anyone can be a teacher if you learn, like it's a learned skill, but like Joe seems like she'd be good because she's smart and and is commanding.
Hmm.
And all those little girls at Eastland would have a huge crush on her.
That is also true.
Yeah.
And then Nat does her impression of Joe as a teacher. "Come to class or I'll kill you." It's a line so phoned in you could like hear the crackle on the other end.
Yeah.
So seriously, Tootie is somebody pissed Tootie off. She's still saying zero.
Yeah.
And then Joe plans to visit her fiance's alma mater. It's only 60 miles away. So she's going to drive up and look around it like a weirdo.
Yeah.
And then Blair says, "Well, you better do it quickly before Mrs. Gallagher leaves Eastland," dropping a bomb so clumsily I'm surprised it didn't roll off set and just explode all of Universal City. But before we get into the drama, why the fuck would Mrs. Gallagher need to be teaching at Eastland for Joe to go visit a prospective college? What does one have to do with the other? Am I missing something here? If Joe said we are going to go check it out, that I guess would like cover like 10% of the logic hole. But like, why Blizzard? You better go check out that alma mater fast because once Mrs. Gallagher leaves school, it's going to just disappear and there'll be no way for you to ever see it and you can't go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. That makes no sense.
It made
But
no sense. It was just a really clumsy way to say Mrs. Gallagher's leaving Eastland. It was like they didn't even try to think of a logical way to bring it up. It was such a frustrating choice for me.
they could have just said, "Oh, what are you like? Yeah, it's clear you and Gail have such a close relationship. What are you going to do when she leaves?" And then Joe's like, "What? What are you talking about?" That's fine. You don't need to do the whole like long way to go about like, well, you better go visit her alma mater soon because otherwise you can't go without her. What does
So
that mean?
it means nothing. Anyway, so Joe doesn't believe her, and Blair is delighted to know something about Joe's wife that Joe doesn't know.
Yeah.
But Joe thinks that Blair has her wires crossed,
Yeah.
I guess.
I don't know.
But Blair heard Mr. Parker talking about it in the hall, so it's official.
Yeah.
And before Joe can ask any more questions, the Mrs. G's re-enter from the kitchen.
Yeah.
Or the Miss G's. I guess they are
Yes,
both single.
they are.
Blair corners her, and Gail is taken aback, but yes, confirms this is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
She's leaving Eastland.
Yeah.
Joe's heart shatters into a million pieces. They've been
Mm-hmm.
married for 10 years, and yet this never even came up. How dare
It
she?
never, exactly. Now she's going to spitefully not read Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah, so Gail and Joe, or Jail or Go,
Do
decide to have their
jail.
first.
Jail
What?
is better. Jail is better because
Jail.
it would be statutory rape.
I like it. Very good. They have their first lovers' quarrel in front of the group. Joe's hurt that Gail didn't tell her. Mrs. Garrett tries to cover for Gail.
Yeah.
That makes sense with the book sale and all the sushi that this wouldn't come up. That makes no sense. It makes zero sense at all.
I know. It's like with all that other distracting stuff, you couldn't have brought up the fact that you're leaving in a week. No. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Way too much going on with the sushi and the books. Oh my God. It was crazy. And all of those, the other thing that Natalie brought up, she's like, I can't believe you're such close friends with Gail, having all that sushi and going to hockey games and talking about boys. And Joe's like, yeah, we don't do that.
They definitely don't. Natalie asks when Gail is leaving, and Gail very happily announces that it's the end of next week.
Yeah.
Like, too
Yeah.
happily. It's almost
And
demented how happily she says it.
yeah, she's like, I'm so excited to get the hell out of here because you guys are morons. And aside from Joe, this has been the worst time of my life. Anyway, so
Which causes Tootie to shout her second line of the day,
which is,
"Oh, that means I'm not going to be able to take your class."
yeah.
It's like, yes, Tootie, it's about you.
But
Please shout about how this is about you.
but again, that's what this whole episode is. Like this lady was introduced into this show, right?
To die.
To die, so that congratulations, Joe, you made it all about yourself. Thank you, writers, for making Joe look like a selfish asshole about her one true love.
Tootie says she was looking forward to Beowulf because of Miss Gallagher, which I have to wonder, what could Miss Gallagher possibly do to make Beowulf not the worst thing ever?
Well,
Like,
Beowulf is not the worst thing ever. This show is the worst thing ever.
oh, I would rather.
Really? You wouldn't rather read an old English epic poem about Beowulf slaying Grendel and Grendel's mother and then a dragon and then dying? It's actually a really great poem and teaches you a lot. So
I've read it, but I would rather
watch this
spend
episode again? No.
400 hours talking about the facts of life over several years than read it one more time if I
Okay.
had my choice.
I would rather read Beowulf 400 more times than watch any more facts of life.
Well, too bad that you're contractually obligated for 5 more seasons. Anyway, maybe Miss Gallagher could like smash watermelons every time they say Beowulf in the poem.
I would hope so.
You know, with like a big mallet.
Yeah, like Gallagher.
Yeah. like her dad.
Yes.
She's like
Actually,
a
I think that's her brother.
Oh, okay. I noticed at this point that Natalie is holding what looks to be a magazine, but it's probably a book from the book fair. Regardless, it's called Sizzleicious.
Yeah, I know. And the great thing is that so Natalie gets the like I guess kind of like the blow on this scene. So she's literally.
Well, hang on. I want to talk about Sizzleicious.
One second. Let me just. I just want to back it up. So like so Gail's like basically they're like, when were you going to tell us that you were leaving? And Gail's or when are you leaving? And Gail's like, oh, and next week. Super excited to go. Like, adios. Bye bye bye. And then and Natalie says, well, that sounds like you're just going to pick up and leave. Sounds something that Joe would do, that you would do, while holding up this weird magazine or book or whatever right in front of her chest, just so that everyone could see it. It was a visual joke?
I don't know. It just said Sizzleicious, which it appears the word Sizzleicious originates from a 1955 A1 steak sauce ad.
Ah, that makes sense.
But I do not know what Sizzleicious the book is. I'm very interested. I think it was just something they could clear by making up a fake word on a book.
But yeah, here's the thing about the lesbian book fair that they went to. They got all the classics. They got Great Gatsby, Lord Jim, Grapes of Wrath, Sizzleicious.
Yep.
Yeah, normal book haul.
Anyway, Blair toasts to Miss Gallagher's new job, and we are out of that scene.
Yeah.
So
oh my God. And then what happens?
This is exciting to me. What happens?
What happens?
We go into an Eastland classroom. After 4 years on this show, we actually get to see what a classroom looks like. And it looks
And
shit.
not only do we get to see what the
What a
classroom looks
shitty,
like,
cheap classroom.
yep, not only do we get to see what a shitty, cheap classroom it is, but we get to see how stupid all of the girls are in class.
They are not bright.
It's like no one did the reading.
It's a weird vibe in that classroom, considering this is, I guess, supposed to be like a fancy school.
Yeah.
The whole classroom vibe was very strange because, like, remember, Mrs. Garrett lays down fancy tablecloths for these girls to eat on every night. We
Yeah.
see her folding them and unfolding them, washing them, placing them, everything we could possibly see with those tablecloths.
Hmm.
And then we go into a classroom and they have these shitty wooden desks that Natalie can barely fit into.
Yeah, I know. It's like a prison classroom.
So weird, with one little Eastland pendant.
Yeah. And they're talking about Brave New World.
Yes, they are. Apparently, Blair said something dumb off camera, but Mrs. Gallagher is saving her by making it seem brainy like.
Yeah.
How Brave New World is not just a story about the past, but it's a story about the future. Some shit.
No, it's a story about the present.
Present. Oh, sorry, my bad. Blair is not buying this, but Gail extrapolates her point, which impresses Natalie, and then Blair's suddenly happy to take credit for it.
Yeah, she's like, yeah. That's exactly, that's all the shit I just said. Yes.
Yeah, she said that we're headed for a sterile society unless we can learn to deal with our problems and each other. How prescient for today's episode, Wolbert. Yeah, anyway, so they talk about how in the book marriages and even friendships were outlawed, and then the camera pans back to reveal a very grumpy Jo sitting there with her arms crossed and a sourpuss on her face, feeling betrayed by her older lover. She's like, yeah, fuck love, it's a lie.
Yes, exactly. You're like, well, yeah, because Blair says, well, yeah, they outlaw marriage, because they're those barbarians. And then, well, they outlawed friendships of any kind. And Jo says, yeah, they know what they were doing.
Yes, Gail wants her
And
to
and
elaborate on that.
Gail's like, oh my God, you're a genius. Please, I want to sit on your face. Let me sit on your face for a minute.
Well, yeah, Gail does. She saunters over to Jo and she's like, tell me more about this. Until like her gunt is right in Jo's face.
Yeah, she's like, would you like to elaborate on that? And then, and like, is
Why
like,
does Natalie start coughing?
and exactly. And then Natalie's like, whoa. We got to like clear the air in here. Jesus.
The
It's
sexual tension is too much.
It's too sexy in here right now. And Natalie's like,
And why?
Like,
Like, genuinely, why? Why
like,
was that?
she had such an aggressive coughing fit. It was like Ace Ventura.
It was weird.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, we got to break up this fight, but like, that was very strange. Anyway,
she blames it on pollen, and then Jo's like, "Well, why should people have friends if they're only gonna disappoint you?"
yeah, she squinted too when she did it. It was like a big Jo squint. Gail looks heartbroken. She really should clarify what's going on, but she's not going to. Instead, she just lets this teenager think she's a piece of shit, a fucking
Yeah.
oh, you're aging out of my type, so I'm gonna go to a new school, find a 15-year-old. The belly ring, the belly,
Yeah, the belly rings.
the belly rings.
Hmm.
The bell rings, and thankfully Gail dismisses the class, warning them, stay away from that soma. Natalie loved that joke.
Yeah. So soma is a drug that hypnotizes you in Brave New World. But yeah, so she kind of gives like a little like kicker to be like, I see you and your bad dad jokes, Natalie. I'm gonna make one just for you. And she goes, stay away from that soma. And then Natalie, clearly through her coughing fit, has a hysterical breakdown in laughter. It's like and then leaves. And leaving Jo. And then she's like, wait, Jo, no, come back in here.
Yes, Gail apologizes to Jo.
And she actually doesn't really apologize. She says there's some things that are really difficult to say to a friend. Like what?
I don't know. She tries to explain by unhelpfully saying things happen, which is like, why hold her after class if you're going to say absolutely fucking nothing?
Yeah.
And she keeps going, Joe, but then not saying what the problem is. Joe,
Mhm.
some things are hard to say.
And Joe's like, okay, you're the English teacher. This is literally what you teach us to do. You teach us to express ourselves in words and language.
Yeah, so Joe has to go to biology class, so she has no time for this bullshit. If Mrs. Gallagher has nothing to say, then goodbye.
Yeah,
And now we're back in the cafeteria
thank
where,
God.
where everyone is putting up all the decorations for Blair's misspelled birthday party.
I know. So Brenda's putting up this giant banner that says "Happy Birthday, Blair," and I literally thought, I was like, they got these fucking writers got this wrong. They managed to get Blair's name wrong. No, Brenda did. It was just a
Yes.
Brenda.
Also, literally, that could be solved with scissors.
Or just make the E an exclamation point. Just
Yeah.
color it in.
Or if there's no time for that, snip, 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 snip.
Yeah.
Yes, your banner has a little chunk taken out of it, but
Whatever. Who cares?
everything's fine. You
Yeah.
could be like, oh, sorry, there was like a swastika there, so we got rid of it.
Yeah. Sorry, because that's usually what Blair puts at the end of her name, right?
Well, not necessarily, but at the Blair Library.
Oh, of course. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Anyway, so we're the amount of balloons for a 17-year-old's millionaire's birthday party is just rude. And also, there are these plastic checkered tablecloths. They use the
I know.
gorgeous good ones every day so that the girls can eat sloppy joes and not sushi. But meanwhile, Blair gets these weird plastic, like Italian red sauce ones.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah. Anyway, Natalie is like being annoying Natalie, and she's basically being the the director of everything, and she's like, "Well, why am I? Why am I forced to work with amateurs?" In comes Mrs. Garrett with a giant punch bowl.
Yes, well, we saw Brenda.
Brenda.
That's Susan Rennell, just in case anybody's forgetting. That's the Natalie's rock-loving nemesis. This is her third and final appearance, so I
Oh,
hope
thank
you.
God, so memorable.
Yes, I really do think if she had done the Brenda voice this time, she might have had another one, but wasn't to be. Mrs. Garrett enters with her punch bowl that she curiously had hoped the Bates boys would destroy for no reason a couple of episodes ago. Remember
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
What was that? I'm still wondering about that.
I wish they had destroyed it.
Natalie yells at Tootie to cue Mrs. Excitement, which is
Yeah.
Joe, who's
Yeah.
mourning over the loss of her latest lover. First David, then Marie Thornwell, now Gail. Joe is having a rough first half of this season.
Yeah.
Tootie says Joe is known for her loud voice.
Yeah. And she's like, in your best street voice, we're gonna want you to yell. And then Joe goes, surprise.
Yes, in an aggressively meek way, she says that.
And
I just loved Tootie referring to Joe's street voice.
I know. I know.
That was astounding. Also, that's another great line for Tootie, reminding Joe the mechanics of a surprise party.
Yes.
Like, okay, now I'm going to explain to you what happens. A
Yeah.
person will enter the room. It is their birthday. They don't know you're here. And you're going to, now, how's your street voice? Okay? Now you're going to have to remember a word. It's a special word.
Wait. Wait. So you want me to take all my clothes off and what when she comes in and then whisper, "Go fuck yourself"? Is that what you want me to do when she comes in for her birthday? No, you want
Joe,
me
you
to.
do you. Whatever is going to get you off. We know that we can't stop you. Anyway, Tootie throws up her hands at Joe's aggressively meek surprise, presumably because of how few lines she has in this episode.
I will say this though, that this is when I really truly like they dressed Joe in this in extreme lesbian lumber chic. Like she is like like it's an aggressively like purple, green, white plaid top with like the big
She looked like a
pockets
king cake.
that emphasize your breasts, but not to like zhuzh them, not like cleavage. Like, no, keep these down and secure. Like it's a very secure top.
I got him. I'm not doing nothing with him.
Yeah.
If you want him higher, you move him there.
Anyway, so then,
Um,
okay, so right after Natalie, not right after Tootie explains what a surprise party is to Joe, and they hide. Natalie comes screaming, literally screaming, presumably what 10 seconds before the surprise is about to happen.
yeah,
She comes in shrieking
the
for
baby
everyone.
boys heard her. Everybody heard her.
Yeah, for everyone to hide because this is not a drill. And so Blair is like, what, 6 feet behind her, and Natalie is screaming about the surprise.
I've never heard Natalie scream so loud. So
Anyway,
they turn off the lights, and Tootie asks Natalie to move her caboose, but it's actually Mrs. Garrett's caboose, and they're in a
that's
giant
my
room.
caboose.
There should be no caboose touching at all.
Yeah. Also, as soon as Mrs. Garrett goes, that's my caboose, the audience goes apeshit.
Because it's a classic callback to that season when she was contractually forced to mention her ass in every single episode.
Yeah.
Obviously, they were like, we are diehards.
This
We
is what we were
recognize the
waiting for.
continuity.
Yeah.
Been months. We're thirsty for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jerry and Blair enter, and Jerry turns on the lights, and Blair is pissed off.
Yeah.
Nat tries to guilt Blair into liking the party, but she cannot.
Yeah.
Jerry also tries.
So again, I said that here's the thing about this is that Blair is clearly upset. She's like, I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. You know how I feel.
Asked for not this.
I literally told you how much birthdays make Warner women unhappy and upset. I told you that.
Ages them drastically.
I hate this. And then everyone is like, surprise! Da, 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 da. And Blair is visibly upset. She's like, it's that frowny face, whatever. And then Natalie comes over and tries to guilt her into enjoying her party.
Yes.
So this is why this show is so fundamentally malevolent. It's because it does this thing where it doesn't listen to the characters and then presents them with people who are purportedly, quote, their friends, who go around and do exactly the thing they hate the most and then make them feel bad for not liking it. So Blair said, I don't like birthdays. And Natalie said, but we went to such an effort. So fuck you. And it's like, that's not how normal people should be learning how to interact with one another.
No, Jerry has the right idea, though. She's like, there are presents. There's cake. You've been gaining weight lately. I know you recently discovered cake.
Yeah.
And then Blair's like, all right, cake, presents, let's do this. And
yeah, I like that. Yeah. Cousin Jerry gets her, I think her last line, right? Isn't this her last line? She goes, there's balloons, presents, friends, and cake, and fun. And then Blair's like, yeah, now that you mention it, I do like cake.
Yes.
And then she's like, oh, now I'm so excited. And then she looks at the banner. She's like, but there's no E in Blair. And then she's like,
fuck
but I'm
you, who did this?
And then she's like, I'm loving every minute of this party. And then in comes fucking Brenda.
Well, hang on a second, but I would like to, before we mention, what the hell was Cousin Jerry wearing? Like, I looked up mock turtlenecks, and that was like a double layer mock turtleneck. Like, it made no sense to me.
I actually didn't notice. I thought, was it bright turquoise?
It was bright red, and
red?
It was like up here, like this, but then like up to her neck. But then it had like an extra thick, puffy layer of neck rounding. It was so weird. And it just made me like feel like I was choking looking at her.
So it basically did. So what you're describing is basically it made it look as though her head was the glands of a penis if you pulled down the foreskin all the way and wrapped it around her neck.
Honestly, yes, and I had not envisioned it that way at all. But yes, I had envisioned like a screw top head where you could like see like where the screwing mechanism was thicker. But yes, that works too. So yeah,
that
and then
too. Okay.
Blair takes 2 steps towards the punch bowl, to start getting ready to pretend that she loves this party.
Mm-hmm.
2 steps towards the punch bowl, the entire crowd starts applauding. The entire party's like, she's into it. She did it. She walked 2 steps towards the punch bowl into the center of the room. This is officially a party.
Sweet.
It's
Sweet.
so weird. But I mean, it is a subplot, so A for effort, I guess. Blair does try to pretend that she's happy about the whole thing, except for the letter E. She's like, fuck the letter E. And that is when Brenda comes over and is like, how old are you?
Again, who gives a shit? She's 16. Again.
Nobody should give a shit. No high schooler has ever asked that question because based on your grade, it's patently obvious what age everybody is turning, and it's just a weird question. It's just strange.
And the other thing is that kids fucking love telling people how old they are. How old are you? I'm 6 3/4. I'm 16 and a half. I'll be 17 in June. Like, it's everyone, like, people who are anything younger than 30, like, they're fine saying how old they are.
But even then, just like, if you want to really like narrow it down, up till 21,
yeah,
like, that's still like, I want to be able to be cool and drink and vote and stuff. So yeah, I'm 21. Like, you want to get to that, then whatever. But like, no, I want to be a 13-year-old forever.
Yeah,
I miss the halcyon days of being 8. What the hell? It's so weird.
But also, I love the fact that they make Brenda into being one of these sort of like weird, like, doesn't understand social signals, and also doesn't actually know what Blair's name is, but also feels as though she's comfortable enough going up to this person to insult how old she is at her own birthday party. It's like,
I honestly weird. But it does allow Lisa Whelchel to elicit one of her patented whimpers.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I do feel like, like, Brenda should have just basically gone up to her and said, you should probably lay off the cake, Blair. Like, that's how insulting she was being.
I would have preferred that, honestly. It would have been more clear cut. So Natalie confronts Brenda, though. She's going to beat the shit out of her in the parking lot after the party's over. And that is the episode I'd rather be watching, to be frank.
And to be perfectly frank, also, that is not a Natalie move. That's a Joe move.
But I like that Natalie feels like she has got jurisdiction over Brenda. There's not too many people she can be an asshole to, but Brenda she can be. I mean, she is an asshole, but like Brenda, she can be the tough guy. Mrs. Garrett seems to have called on Joe to be the bartender at this party because Joe doesn't have enough work to do. She's like, this is turning out to be a great party, huh, Joe? Look, Blair already like took 2 steps towards the punch bowl. This party is rocking.
It's off the hook.
Joe's not even responding to this. So Mrs. Garrett decides to be real fucked up and bring up Joe's ex.
I know.
Gail wanted to come to the party, but she's got essays to grade. And besides, she knew you were going to be there, and she hates you now.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is that, like, Mrs. Garrett, apparently, much like the other girls, as soon as there's one of the girls feeling sad or depressed or, vulnerable about something, she decides to rub salt in the wound. She's like, Gail would have liked to be here, but she hates you and you suck. So, move on.
Really trying to press Joe's buttons. Mrs. Garrett tries to tell Joe that she's not being fair to Gail. But Joe just whines about how Gail wasn't fair. Gail was making plans for the future for the two of them, and then they're just disappearing. They were supposed to go on their second honeymoon in Hoboken. They were going to tour all the good motorcycle shops. It was going to be so romantic.
Joe was like, I already have the U-Haul packed.
I got her a Subaru for our 20th anniversary.
And I picked out some rescue dogs.
Did you say breast cue dogs?
I did not say breast cue dogs.
Well, that would be the thing that a lesbian would love the most, right?
Yes, breast cue dogs.
Anyway, Joe says, and I quote, people always have an angle. Like money from another school. Face it, Mrs. G, home is where the dollars are.
Yeah.
Like, who wrote this?
I know.
We know who wrote it, but... anyway, Mrs. Garrett says Joe's all wrong about this, but Joe is worked up, and she needs to confront her lover about this breakup immediately. She's leaving Blair's party to go find Gail.
Yeah. But Mrs. Garrett says, Gail isn't leaving for money. she's leaving because she's ill.
And that's when everybody starts singing "Happy Birthday." Which did they have? Did they afford the rights to this?
I literally wrote down the exact same thing.
I think they just snuck it in. I don't know what
I
happened.
was shocked. Like literally Happy Birthday just went into the public domain in like the last few years.
Like the last year, I think. But yeah,
It's like in the last
crazy.
few years. That's, and again, we can explain this to people who aren't in the industry. But usually that's why in every sitcom or movie, that's why whenever there's a birthday party that's on camera, that's why they always have to sing like happy birthday, it's birthdays, it's birthday, happy birthday, birthdays to you, like some fake song, because happy birthday isn't in the public domain, so, because it's too expensive and they weren't allowing it to be used in movies and TV. But I'm sure that the Facts of Life in 1982 could afford Happy Birthday.
I mean, they probably had all like the possible money in the world to be truthful, but I don't think they used it on this.
Because they were saving all that money by having every scene in the cafeteria.
Yeah. That Happy Birthday was written by Millie and Patty Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it is uncredited in this episode. So maybe that's how they got away with it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's really real powerful the way they do this. Like this is the thing that I remember the most from this episode
Yeah.
is that they bring out the cake and
Yes.
everybody's singing happy birthday, and
Two.
right before they go they do happy birthday dear Blair, then they have a really long pause, just long
Yeah.
enough for Mrs. Garrett to very plainly go, she
Joe,
she's
she's
dying.
dying.
So intense.
And then the girls just keep shrieking Happy Birthday.
Happy birthday to you, and everybody applauds. And I think this was their way of not having the audience applaud after Mrs. Garrett goes, she's dying, was have the entire cast do it instead.
Yeah.
Iconically upsetting commercial break for me.
I can understand that.
And so now we're back.
Yes.
And I wrote, but now I learned subsequently I was incorrect, that I thought the girls were up in their room playing poker.
No, they're playing bridge.
Yes, I learned that subsequently, but we've seen them play cards more than I've seen any teenage girls play cards in my life.
Yeah.
It's weird. Poker and bridge are such old people activities. What group of 16-year-old girls is playing that much? Like nobody's ever listening to music, nobody's ever watching TV, they're rarely reading unless it's for school. They are playing cards all the
They
time.
could they could be doing a puzzle. They could be doing their makeup. They could be doing things that teenage girls would do. But no, they play bridge and they mention Geritol. And they
Yeah.
freak out about getting older and older when they're 16 years old.
Also weird, Tootie wants to wait for Joe, but Blair explains that they've been waiting for Joe for days. To do what? Play bridge?
Apparently. But
Joe
but
is
again, Joe's so busy. If she's not in the library, she's at the motorcycle shop. And then
continuity.
they all speculate as to why she's so upset. And I can't remember who says it, but someone says, but that's the thing. Losing a friend is really tough.
Yes, Tootie says it because she well, yes. Also Natalie says whenever Joe's around you can't talk to her because she's always involved in some ridiculous project. It's like, what are you talking about? Can you be more specific, Natalie? Because there's no evidence of this in this episode, and it's a weird thing to say.
Yeah,
But
exactly. The thing is that it has this odd vagueness to it, this episode, where it's like, and weird specific things. It's like, we're gonna mention the sushi, we're gonna mention the Grapes of Wrath, we're gonna mention Brave New World, we're gonna mention Beethoven, Rembrandt, all these very specific things. And then what's Joe been so busy doing? Projects?
ridiculous projects.
Ridiculous projects. Oh,
What's that mean?
what's Joe's most beloved teacher dying of? No, I don't know, but she's gonna die next week. Who knows?
I'm just imagining Joe building these like weird Rube Goldberg devices where you like put a marble in and like a milkshake comes out or something. It's just so what are these ridiculous projects?
That sounds like a great project. I'm gonna do that during COVID.
Please. So yes, Tootie Captain Obvious is that Joe hasn't been the same since she learned that Gail was skipping town.
Yeah.
No shit, Sherlock, but Blair somehow thinks she's over it.
Yeah.
Tootie wouldn't be over it so fast because if Natalie left school, Tootie would spend the rest of her days wallowing in misery, which absolutely delights Natalie.
Yeah. She's like, sweet. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, this makes her like weird, gross, gurgling noises of pleasure. And then she's like, now, if you don't bid, I'm going to break your fucking arm. It's Natalie is off the charts aggro in this episode for no
It's
reason.
yeah, it's very weird. Um,
She's like, you know what, Brenda? I'm gonna fucking kill you, and then Tootie, I'm gonna break your arm if you don't. If you don't, we got to get going.
I assumed she must have had like an amazing hand. She was just like, we got to do this.
I feel like she ate so much of Blair's birthday cake that she's now on a sugar high.
That could be it too.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Garrett enters with an important message for the blur in denim jacket, formerly known as Joe. Um, Joe enters on cue.
No, no, no. Hold on, before we get there. So Mrs. Garrett comes, she's like, I need to have a note for her. It's very important, but how am I going to make sure that she gets it? And it's like, put it on her dresser, like right in front of her. And they're like, and then Natalie's like, well, you should probably just try skywriting.
I didn't even write that because I was like, what? Because like, what?
Because she's not here all the time because it's a big public display.
Yeah, I get it. I guess it's just like I feel like we all could have done a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, could have done a lot better. Everyone.
Anyway, Joe enters and Blair gives her shit about not being her bridge partner. Can you do two against one bridge?
I've never played bridge. I don't know.
I didn't look it up because I assumed that you played bridge all the time. As a girl, you had that phase in your teens where that's all you did.
Yeah. Lot of bridge playing over here.
Joe apparently was cleaning out the cages in the bio lab, even though she hates doing this and works for free and goes to school. But whatever. That's and she hates bridge more. Apparently, she says. Why didn't somebody tell her that? Or tell Blair that before the 3-day in advance bridge scheduling that happened. Mrs. Garrett wants to give Joe this message from Gail, but Joe would rather talk about guinea pig shit. I've had several guinea pigs in my day, and they do shit a lot. I still, to this day, find hay in my apartment from having a guinea pig.
You mean hey or hey?
I definitely mean the first one. Mrs. Garrett enters with an important message. I said that already. Apparently tonight's the big Beethoven concert is the important message. She and Gail were attending. I guess there's a Beethoven show at the Puffy Clam where they always hang out. But Joe does not have time for that. She throws on her apron and gets the fuck out of there. No apologies to the girls who are playing lopsided bridge. No, nothing. Just nothing.
No.
Mrs. Garrett just looks at the girls and then grunts and throws up one hand, and that is the scene.
Yeah.
They like left it long enough where you're like, oh, somebody's gonna say something, and then Mrs. Garrett's like, huh. I guess that's what we were waiting for. And now it is 3 a.m. Have we had like 19 3 a.m. scenes this year?
Yeah. There's a lot of late night bullshit in this season.
Yes. And more to come.
To make it seem more dramatic or whatever, but like here's the thing, is it like if you're a 16-year-old girl that's wandering around Peekskill, which has according to Facts of Life lore, the highest per capita rapists of any city on the eastern seaboard.
And that good sub place.
Yeah. That you would think that Joe wouldn't want to just wander around all night there. But she had a lot of thinking to do. She comes in, and it's pitch black in the cafeteria. And what happens?
There's Tootie. She's in a very, very ugly mood and nighty.
Yes.
Joe broke curfew after the movie and went joyriding. What movie? We didn't know anything about this. That's fine. Tootie is having absolutely none of this. She needs to know why Joe was in a bad mood. Even though, in the last scene, she explained to the girls that Joe has been in a bad mood ever since her friend said she was moving. You told us
The
8
reason.
seconds ago. We're
Yeah.
at the beginning of this scene. Just came out of a minute-long scene where you told everybody in the cast this.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway,
so
so
then
he calls out Joe for patronizing her, and Joe's all like, huh, patronizing, nice word.
yeah. And
Being
she's like, I'm gonna
patronizing about the word patronizing?
yeah.
Too much.
It's like an Ouroboros of being patronizing. Anyway, so Joe's like, get off my fucking back, you little 12-year-old pipsqueak. And she's like, it's 3 a.m. I gotta go to sleep. And Mrs. Garrett comes in and is like, what a novel idea. Sleep at 3 a.m. It might catch on. And then she tries to get Tootie out of there. She's like, the adults need to talk. And Tootie's like, no, no, no. I want to know what's going on here too.
Yeah, Tootie goes, no. And I was like, everybody's got to get a grip today.
Yeah.
Like, Tootie is crazy. Blair is crazy about her party. Joe is crazy about this death. Natalie, everybody except for Mrs. Garrett, who spent all of last week's episode being absolutely insane. Everybody else is nuts this episode. We learned that Joe never told Gail that she wasn't going to the Beethoven concert. Poor Gail was waiting there at the theater for over an hour. And we know she does not have very many hours left. And Joe just wasted one of them by being an asshole.
Joe hurt her to her core by not going to the Beethoven thing.
This is going to kill her sooner.
Yeah.
You know how that mysterious disease works.
Yes,
every pang of disappointment is another 3 hours gone.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Mrs. Garrett explains that Gail was concerned,
Mhm.
and Joe explains that she really doesn't care and she doesn't want to fucking hear that name again.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Garrett drops another bomb. Apparently, Joe has not been going to class anymore, and Mrs. Garrett knows that. And
Yeah.
Tootie's like, aha! I knew it was about your ex.
Yeah, and she says, and she assumes that she goes, well, it's fine. It's like, you can, but it's fine, but you can always see her, even though she's going to another school. You can always write to her, and then, Mrs. Garrett tells Tootie to go the fuck to bed again, and then before she can get Tootie out of the room, Joe divulges personal medical information about her best friend.
Which Mrs. Garrett also did.
But this is not hers to divulge.
It's not anybody's to divulge except for Miss Gallagher, and she is not, and she really should be. Yeah. At least to Joe.
No, I know.
Yes, it is not Joe's place to say this, and yet Joe says it.
Yeah, she's here. Let me do my whole. She's like my whole spiel. She goes, she's not going to another school, Tootie. She's going to a hospital, and she ain't coming out. She's going to the big boarding school up in the sky. Capiche?
You understand? You know what's funny?
Her number's up, and St. Peter's calling from inside the pearly gates. All right. It's like she's like, okay, and like Tootie's like, I got it. She's dying. Jesus Christ.
But no matter how harsh Joe tried to go, it's still way less jarring than when Mrs. Garrett told Joe mid-happy birthday, Joe, she's dying. Yes. There's a much more fucked up, and I would add that to Joe's lists of grievances if I were her. I would be like, oh, you're going to tell me that we're going to have a talk? Let's talk about delivering other people's medical news in really fucked up ways in the middle of happy birthday. I can't hear that song anymore.
Yeah, because I think of my ex-girlfriend dying of cancer.
We don't know that it's cancer. It could be a really bad bug bite. We literally don't know.
Anyway, so after Joe's like, she's dying, she's gonna go to the hospital, she ain't gonna come out, Tootie. Tootie looks at Mrs. Garrett like, I still don't understand, Mrs. Garrett. What?
Yeah, with her mind pretty much blown, Joe drops the mic on the floor and goes, I'm going to bed, and then flourishes toward the giant coffee urns that they don't need because this is a cafeteria for children. And Mrs. Garrett stops her and says, we're not done here. And then Joe pinches the bridge of her nose and turns. And I was like, I've been there. I relate to that. Good acting, Joe. That's fine. Mrs. Garrett needs Joe to face it, which Joe says she's doing. And Mrs. Garrett's like, no, you need to grieve the way I'm telling you to grieve. And she goes, you can run as far as you want, but Gail is still gonna die. Why is Mrs. Garrett so harsh about Gail's death?
I know. I literally I wrote down, what the fuck is going on here? Mrs. Garrett is like, you're going to have to face it. And I was also just sort of like, you know what, Mrs. Garrett? You know, no one likes confronting the specter of illness or death, especially with a loved one, right? And yourself, right? But like Mrs. Garrett again likes to really rub the salt in the wound. It's like it's
So hard.
Joe's like, okay, Mrs. Garrett, you ruined Happy Birthday for me already. You don't need to go that again. No, Mrs. Garrett's like, no. Hold on, I gotta go in one more time. She's like, you can run all you want. You can run all you want, but she's still gonna die. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like this is like Final Destination for tweens. Like, you
It
can
is
run all you
intense.
want, but she will kill you. Death will come for all of us.
Joe laments that she got out of the Bronx only to face this mysterious terminal illness, and I don't think those two things should be equated.
No. Yeah. The kind of neighborhoods we grew up in, you took your chances even stepping out your front door. But she got out. She made it. And now this.
Tootie says she must be so scared, and Joe's like, what's scary is dying with your life meaning nothing. And it's like, whoa. What do you know about Gail's life that makes you think that?
That she has no meaning to it?
It was nothing.
But again, it's like, Jesus, Joe, what the hell? She might have had a short life, but like, she met you. She introduced you to, sushi.
That is Mrs. Garrett's point, but I think like the greater point is like, look, Joe, she had, at least according to what you're telling us, 26 years on this earth. She did stuff. She did stuff. Like,
Yeah.
like, don't worry. It's fine. I mean, like, if that's what you're worried about, even Mrs. Garrett's like, that's what you think is going on here?
Yeah.
It's like all that time you were visiting the Georgia O'Keeffe Library with her, picking bits of tuna out of each other's teeth. You were doing stuff. You were
Yeah.
making an impact on each other. I bet you're a better pussy eater now than you were before you met her. Is that the truth?
And Joe's like, actually, now that you mention it, yes, I am better now. I'm better at it. I know to do two fingers in for the G spot.
Yeah. It's like, did Gail ever go, by the way, Joe, I've done nothing with my life.
and I'm dying. So
Yeah.
Don't make the same mistakes I did, which was coming to East, getting out of the ghetto, going to teach moron children, about books that they already hate, and then lead a purposeless life and then die very young. So don't do any of that.
Yes, as Nancy McKeon's doing some real hardcore acting here.
Yeah.
But I'm so distracted when we learn that Miss Gallagher is 26.
Yes.
Because she looks 38 to me.
I
in
think,
reality, the actress is 32.
So I think the reason is because of her aggressive, brassy, aggressive terminal illness. No, excuse me. I think it's the aggressively brassy blonde hair that she has that's also in a not very good aging perm that makes her look 45. Like, it makes her look like a divorced mother of two.
I was shocked when she said 26. My brain turned off to the monologue. But either way, I don't know why the writers were like, no, we can't call this actress 32 the way she is. Say she's 26.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem necessary. Mrs. Garrett points out what you said, that, yes, Joe, you moron, you and others like you are what made her life worth living. And now she's going to die. Did I mention she's dying?
Yes. The
Parts
inside
of her are probably already dead.
The inside of her is like, basically right now she's a desiccated husk of a human. Her organs have all fallen out of her rectum at this point.
No matter what you do, no matter what you feel, she's going to be dead
very soon.
it's going to be basically your fault.
Yeah, and also the other thing is that so she's gonna die super soon, like almost like I probably like within the next week. Um, and so my thing about my point here with you, Joe, is you probably shouldn't talk to her and describe your feelings for her. Don't tell her.
Because
Just
she's
don't
going to
say it.
die either way.
Yeah, so just don't
Why
say it.
have that awkward conversation?
No. Just act like nothing's happened. Why don't you go
And
play some bridge?
and then Mrs. Garrett makes a very strange point.
Yes.
She goes, "Some people can live to 80 and have no impact at all." That seems like a real rarity.
Yeah, it
Like
does.
I would not want to meet that person, but I would be curious to like maybe read like a paragraph or two on why they had zero impact. I would imagine they were like veal. They were like in a little case and nobody knew about it.
But
I don't, and how they got to 80 is impressive also.
but then again, the thing is that they would have had some impact because even if they were veal and they were locked in a little cage, someone would have had to have fed them for 80 years.
No, maybe they were in veal, but they had some plants in there that they were eating for 80 years. I don't know. I literally can't think of a person that has had no impact on anybody for 80 years. It's a really weird point for Mrs. Garrett to make, but she makes it, and it basically is what ends the scene because then Joe just starts to cry and she says she should have more time. And we thankfully fade out because I was afraid Tootie was going to say something else loud and stupid.
Being like, what? What do you mean, death? I don't understand what that is. Explain that to me.
Is it
And then,
because of the raw fish she eats?
yeah, exactly. And oh, it's mercury poisoning. Maybe
Yes,
she's, yeah. Anyway,
that's the mystery.
that's the mystery. It's all that goddamn sushi she's eating. Anyway, so then we close in that scene. We end that scene in the cafeteria, and we open in the cafeteria. Our last scene, as usual.
Yes. Same location, new time. It's day now. The
Gail and Mrs. Miss Garrett,
Miss and Mrs. G.
Miss and Mrs. G, the double G's, are having a nice coffee clutch, and she says, Gail says, I've packed up everything up, I'm basically done, but
I will
she,
say I have more notes probably in this scene than anything else in this episode.
okay. Anyway,
There-
so
I
so
was blown away by this scene for lots
so
of reasons.
so they're sitting there talking about like being like, oh, I basically all packed up, but like I couldn't fit everything in my steamer trunk, and whatever. She's like,
My,
so Gail's like, I had to choose between my rare coin collection and my signed photo of Al Pacino. And Mrs. Garrett chuckles and says, Al Pacino, right? And then Gail says, are you kidding? What's he ever done for me? This was a mysterious to me exchange.
everything about it.
So, first of all, how big is this signed photo of Al Pacino? How much room could that possibly take up?
What is the scenario where one would have to choose between these two things?
Between these two things. The other thing is that how extensive is her rare coin collection, and why haven't we heard about that yet?
It's 2 quarters.
Two quarters. But again, like, if you're gonna die, shouldn't you be giving away your most heartfelt belongings?
I'm just imagining her in a hospital bed with a
Play,
picture of
play.
Al Pacino in a frame on her little side, just counting her coins.
Yeah. Here's the thing is that you would think that the rare coin collection would be something that she would want to give to someone, like that maybe Joe might inherit something to remember her by, because clearly Joe doesn't want a fucking photo of Al Pacino.
True. Neither does Miss Gallagher.
What's he ever done for me? What the hell does that mean? Why does she have it then?
I don't know. I don't know any of this. It's so confusing. It was such weird chuffa at the beginning of the scene. I didn't know what to do with it. But you basically hit all my points. I want to imagine the scenario where she's just looking at the two of them and she's like, well, one of you has to go.
Yeah, I can't fit. But again, how big is this photo that is flat, presumably? I mean, unless it's like a 3D printed Al Pacino
It's
that
very thick paper.
she keeps in her house, and she's like, it's her. You would think that would have come up.
You
She's
would.
an Al Pacino super fan.
My
But again,
super thick 3D signed Al Pacino. It's just gonna be me and him in the hospital. It's the only thing I can fit in my bag. So Joe enters the.
let me just pause you for 1 second. I have this. I have a dream of mine, which is to have enough disposable money to be able to buy very unusual things and just give them to people, but very large, cumbersome things that would be also impossible to regift to someone else, but also that, like, if I was, like, say, coming over, you wouldn't be able, you'd have to get it out again, because if I'm coming over, I would want to see, say, my giant Al Pacino, 3D printed Al Pacino that I gave you, Dominik. If it's not out and displayed proudly, I'm going to ask, where's my Al Pacino I gave you? You're going to be like, oh, it's at the cleaners right now.
I think it's a no-brainer that if you gave me a 3D printed anything that was giant, I would display it loud and proud in the center of my apartment.
What if I gave you my rare coin collection?
I'd probably sell it.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is what I think she should do to pay for these bills that she's going to rack up in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she can upgrade to like better meals or something. I don't know how
hospitals
whatever
work.
I don't know how her disease works. Could be one of those like, I'm dying, so just eat all the ice cream and steak that you can have before you go, because it's not about your diet. I don't know. Anyway, so Joe enters the cafeteria and it's so awkward.
Yeah. Hello,
Gail is
stranger.
all bubbly and says, "Oh, just in time. Edna's about to drive me to the station, to the place where I'm going to die."
The other thing is that if she's dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would think that Mrs. Garrett could drive her to the fucking hospital rather than depositing her on the train.
Harsh. Yeah, Mrs. Garrett says they have time for just one more cup of coffee, and Joe goes to get it because she's used to being the slave.
Mm-hmm.
But Mrs. Garrett says, no, this is a special occasion. She will get the coffee.
Yes.
And she goes to do it, but she does not get it from the giant double coffee urn behind her. She walks right past the giant coffee urn into the kitchen, and to be honest, I'm starting to think that they don't use that.
They don't use it, and also it's just to give Gail and Joe, Jail, some privacy.
Yes, now alone, Jail gets chat.
Mm-hmm.
Joe apologizes for standing Gail up last night. The night before she's going to the hospital to die, she has chosen to see Beethoven with a student, and that student bails on her. That is so depressing.
And the student bails on her to go to like a late movie.
Yeah, a late movie and drive around. Not even be like, hey, I'm canceling on you.
Exactly.
Please wait at the theater in the cold, perhaps exacerbating your mysterious condition. We don't know.
When she knows that she has so few days left on this planet, Joe is too selfish and too much of an asshole to talk to her very close, quote, friend about how betrayed she feels and upset she feels that she didn't confide in her, but
or
also
even, and
that
I'm
she's
not
going to
coming.
miss her.
We know where her office is. We know where her class is. Just drop a note. Put it on her desk before she gets to class. Not coming, Joe.
Yeah.
Anything. Anyway, Joe apologizes for being a jerk in general, which is a little more like it, and then
Yeah.
weirdly, Gail changes the subject to remind Joe that a Rembrandt exhibition is coming to Vassar. Lesbian
Next, yeah,
thing. And
yeah,
Joe
because
proudly announces that she's going to have sushi after. Lesbian thing.
yeah.
Even Rembrandt. There's a gay and lesbian hotel called the Rembrandt. So everything about this is super gay.
Anyway, but the other thing is that it's like is that Gail pivots from after Joe's like, "You're right. There are some things that are tough to say to friends." Basically saying the unsaid thing, which is, "I'm gonna miss your pussy when you die."
Yes.
Um,
Barely unsaid. It's pretty
and
much said.
and then Gail's like, "Yeah, I know. I'm gonna miss you licking it. But it's already prolapsed now because I have vagina cancer."
That's what
So
you've decided she has?
yeah. Anyway,
Prolapsed vagina cancer.
yeah. Anyway, so then Gail's like, yeah, so just as a reminder, yeah, there's that Rembrandt exhibition at Vassar that's coming. And Joe's like, yeah, I know. You're going to be dead by then, but I'm definitely going to eat some fish, some raw fish on the way back and think about you.
Yep.
And then,
Gail says she's going to miss Joe. And I'm
yep,
like, but dead people don't miss, I don't think. It's a weird thing for anybody who's saying that's dying, I'm going to miss you. Like, come visit her.
yeah,
Visit her
exactly.
until she dies, and then there will
Go
be no
hold her
missing.
hand.
How far is this hospital? Is it near Vassar?
Hold her hand while she's dying. If she's going into hospice care, just go be with her. It's
Bring
like
her a poke bowl.
and also the other yeah, it's like this could have been a two-parter. This could have been a very special Joe getting to grieve episode,
Yeah, we're gonna
But
get a
no,
very special Joe wants to become a nun two-parter.
God, does she want to fuck the nun?
I think she's just like, if I'm forced to have dick in my life, then I'll just what's a way out?
Mm, fair.
Um. Anyway.
Anyway, yeah. So Gail says, she's like, "I'm gonna miss you," and Joe says, "Yeah, well, sure you will, because how easy is it to find someone who will eat raw fish?" And it's like, again, you don't need to keep saying it, but
We know
also,
what you're talking about,
we know what
guys.
you're
Got it.
talking about, but also all of Japan. All of Japan. They will eat raw fish. All of Japan.
That's true. Miko.
Miko.
Joe tells Gail she's learned so much from her this year about strap-ons, and
Mm-hmm.
then weirdly, Gail goes, "Joe, you know that I have to leave, don't you?" And it's like, yeah,
Yeah, like it's like
yes.
we're not doing this, miss. I'm not missing your meaning here. We both know the subtext of what we're talking about here, Gail. You don't need to dance around this. Just tell me what kind of prolapse did I cause the prolapse? Or
Is it that time that I pulled out like this?
exactly.
Um.
And
Anyway,
and
then
and
Gail
Gail
goes, and also,
and Gail's like, "Yes, it was when you pulled out like this, like a giant squid."
and then Gail says, and also, just know that I'm okay. And I thought you were terminal. If you're
Yeah.
okay, you need to tell Mrs. Garrett because Mrs. Garrett is literally
It's
telling everybody that you're dying.
yeah, going around ruining people's birthday parties, spreading rumors about you. The fact that your imminent death is happening next week.
And then Blair and Natoots bound in all cheery.
Oh my God, this this is where I was like, what is happening here?
This whole scene, I was like, what is happening? Like, literally every aspect of this scene was another chapter of why are we doing it like this?
Yeah,
So Blair and Natoots, they all want Mrs. Gallagher's signature because it's going to be worth so much money when she's dead.
she's like, no, no, no. She's like, it's fine. Just take my signed Al Pacino picture. That's worth way more than my signature.
And then Natalie wants her to write in her yearbook that she's vivacious, which
Yeah, it's like
is a
she's
bit of
she's
a stretch.
vivacious, she's vivacious, wonderful and beautiful and hot and sexy and amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's like if
then
you have a bona fide dead lesbian writing it down and signing it, then it's hard to dispute because you can't even like check.
exactly. And then Natalie's just like going hard on all of these, descriptors that she herself wishes she could be, right?
And then Blair's like, cool your jets.
Yeah, she's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. She's like, you're none of those things, fatso. And then she's like, well, okay, just don't insult me. As though this woman, this English teacher, who's her dying wish, she's going to be like, all right, Natalie Green
Sucks.
sucks. You blowjob queen. I heard all about it. Eat my ass.
To,
Love Gail.
to be honest, I laughed very hard when Natalie said, okay, just don't insult me. I thought that was really funny. And it was the only laugh in this horrible, horrible episode. And we had to wait all the way to the end of the episode for an actual laugh. And they really do. They really try to push the comedy towards the end of this episode. And it's like, nobody's in the mood for that.
No, exactly. That's the thing. It's like all the comedy should have been front loaded so that when Gail leaves, it's really sad. But no, they're like, oh shit, we forgot to put jokes in. Let's cram some in at the third act. Just put it in. Just make Natalie do something dumb.
Yeah, it was
Like, make
honestly, it was like the network realized they were watching the episode and they were like, I thought you would put some jokes in somewhere.
and they were
And they were
like,
like, no. And they were like, do we only have one more scene left to shoot? And it's just Joe and you know what's her face Gail saying goodbye. Basically, it's not gonna be that funny. They were like, all right, what do we have in the prop room because this needs to be funny now.
yeah,
And they even acknowledge it.
yeah. So they
So
say so before she leaves, when when Jail are saying having their quiet moment of I'll never forget the sensation of your cat paper tongue on my pearl clit. Then
my brain just immediately went clicking the explicit content button.
um anyway, I thought prolapsed vagina would have gotten
Yeah,
us.
no, it would have, but for some reason, I just confirmed it.
Okay, good. Anyway, so then like when they're having this very sort of sad goodbye moment, in come, Blair and Natoots, and they're like, well, we can't let you go. We can't let you go without the famous Eastland send-off. And it's the most pathetic, lame thing possible.
Yeah, Blair blows one of those like paper horn things. My brain doesn't even know how to Google that, what they're called, but I just wrote that they're a kazoo's curly cousin.
A party horn? No.
Like, what are those called? I didn't know how to Google it.
Party 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 whistle?
I think a curly kazoo cousin is the way to go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's
All
like a little
K's.
horn you blow.
KKK.
What?
All K's. Curly kazoo cousin.
Okay, I wasn't going there, but anyway, Natalie throws a wad of confetti, which all lands on Tootie, and I'm honestly surprised they didn't bring out Brenda with a cake that said Gail with an E, but
That's it. Die, Gail, with an E.
and then Gail is unimpressed. And she goes, "Is that it?" And
Yeah.
then Natalie tries to deliver this joke, inflation, but you can see this. I went back and watched it. She notices how all of her confetti went on Tootie when it's about time to say her line, and she makes like a face of surprise. She sees it's all in Tootie's hair and on her boobs, and then but she has to respond to Gail, and she's like inflation. But like her face is so filled with joy because of the clear near blooper. It's a delightful moment. I thought.
No.
No.
Because
Um,
again, because again, why would a 12-year-old girl make an inflation joke? She doesn't know what the hell that is. What is she taking, economics at Eastland? No way.
the girls fight about the lack of streamers and debate who's on confetti duty, and I listened really hard to hear if anybody was going to name the curly kazoo cousin, but they did not, and I was disappointed. It's like, I was bringing the curly kazoo cousin, whatever it's called. Thought they'd say it. Joe and Jail, share a look like two former lovers might,
Yes.
and we fade
And we fade.
to Miss Barnett, a new short-haired, spunky love interest for Joe. They made sure to let us know she was single. Miss Barnett, even though she wrote Anne Barnett on the chalkboard so that Joe can be like, all right, I know how to first name her.
Hmm.
Um, Miss Barnett announces that she's going to be following Gail's lesson plan.
So that means that it's going to be really exciting.
Yes, it's going to be really exciting as she gets to know all the girls on an uncomfortably close level outside of school at various fish restaurants. That's the Gail
Yes.
lesson plan.
Hmm.
First up, they're reading The Grapes of Wrath, the book that Gail made Joe read. Miss
Hmm.
Barnett asks if anybody has read the book, and Joe raises her hand, and Miss Barnett is very impressed.
Yes.
Joe, having read The Grapes of Wrath in advance, thereby impressing her new dykey English teacher with short hair, was one final gift given to Joe from Gail from the grave.
Yes.
She licks her lips and looks up to the sky and mouths a little "Thank you, Gail."
Hmm.
And Miss Barnett takes the unusual step of now telling the class not only what The Grapes of Wrath is about, but several spoilers and plot twists from the book, which I
Indeed.
thought was a weird way to get kids excited for it.
Yeah.
We get reminded that Azad Kalata directed this meths.
Meth.
And now it's time to tell you about Miss Barnett. Are you ready?
I literally wrote down new teacher who dis.
Her name is Edna Dix.
Do we
And
ever
this is
see
the
this person
one
again?
and only thing that Edna Dix ever did.
Ever in her life?
She's very close to being that 80-year-old woman who had
Person
no
to go
impact on
in.
anybody. But I changed that today by bringing her up in a podcast. Do you think Edna Dix knows that she's been discussed today? You think there's a little twitch when she's like, somebody's talking about me. I'm
Yeah,
Edna
she's like, my,
Dix.
my ears are burning.
My dicks are itchy. Um, yeah. And that is what I have for you guys. Britt, do you have anything else? Anything you'd like to add about that last scene, which I thought was magic?
No, I have nothing. I have nothing to say. I've said all I can say about this absolutely, abortion of an episode. Like it's just really
Don't say
shocking.
that. Nat's going to write another story.
But it was such a, like, as I've said many times about this show, a missed opportunity. Like, I love the notion of Joe having a very close relationship with a teacher who teaches her to appreciate, we come from a poor background. So but the great thing about us, she's teaching me about sushi and Beethoven and Rembrandt and all this fun stuff that I didn't even have any notion about, and then have her die really early and like give it like 2 episodes. Have us be invested in their relationship and then kill her off. You can't just introduce her at the beginning of an episode. What the hell is this? ER house? You can't just drop someone in and then kill them in the same episode because it's pointless.
This is ER House. Um, yeah, I mean, pointless. It did have an impact on me as a
In
child.
that you never wanted to see it ever again.
Yes, that is true. That is true. I will give you that one. Um, yeah, well, we've got an exciting episode coming up next week. It is still not our two-parter. Our
Oh,
two-parter is
thank
after
God.
this. No, it's coming. We got one
Uh,
more single one, and then it's two-parter palooza for a bit. It's a landmine where we're gonna have to try to avoid them, but we're not gonna be able to. But this next one is about drunk driving.
Great.
We're getting out of the lessons period, but we're not quite there yet.
So what was the lesson of this one? What was the fact?
Use your time wisely. If you're dying, don't make plans with teenagers that are flaky assholes. And
Okay.
also, tell your friends if you're dying, tell them. If you're going to tell Mr. Parker, at least tell Joe first. Do you have
Yeah.
sushi with Mr. Parker?
No.
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 Be a person and realize that the children that you're having sex with and also teaching literature to have feelings too.
And deserve to know.
They
They
deserve
deserve
to
to know.
know, and they don't deserve to know from Mrs. Garrett spreading it all over the school like whatever disease you got.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's what I have for today. I'm pretty proud of us. We came in under 2 hours, so
Just we gotta snap to it.
it's an exciting one though, and my power stayed on, so that's good too.
That's great. You know, things are looking up.
Things are looking up. So until next time, don't drink and drive until you've watched the next episode and you know how to do it properly. Adios.
Bye.
Have a faxy weekend.